Hey, good morning, Presence Church. It's great to be with you all today. As Ethan said, my name is Philip, lead Foster the City. We are a movement of churches committed to providing a safe and loving home for every child that's entering into the foster care system. And what a gift it is now to officially link arms with Presence Church. I was so moved when Chris and Susie first reached out and said that they wanted to partner. And honestly, because it's such kind of the early stages of Presence. It made me think about this. So we have 4 kids. I'm here with my wife, Jessica. We have 4 kids. And when our kids were first born, those first couple of years, it was all about the fundamentals, right? You're teaching them to walk and talk and not run out into the street, right? We're not thinking algebra. We're not thinking gymnastics, right? It's fundamentals at that stage, right? What does it say about Presence Church that in the earliest seasons, they say, we want to be about moving towards vulnerable children and families in our community. We want to be about, this isn't an add-on. This is Presence Church saying, fundamental to who we are as a community is we want to care about the kids and families in crisis in our community. So I want to honor you for that. I want to honor your leaders for that. It's a gift to be able to link arms with you. What's also really fun today is that there are folks in this community. I just was chatting with folks between services, Maxine, Sandy, Obo, Jean, Matt, Aline, so many who were there at the inception of Foster the City, almost now 11 years ago, which is crazy. And so it's fun to kind of be full circle to be back in the room with many of you that were here since the beginning. Today, after almost 11 years, there are over 360 churches that have linked arms. We're raising up foster families, we're raising up support friends for foster families, and we have this dream that one day there's going to be a waiting list of families rather than a waiting list of kids in need of a home in our community. And churches like Presence are going to be on the front lines of helping to make that happen. But we are entering into year 11, decade number 2, which feels surreal of this movement, and so it actually got me a bit nostalgic. I was talking with some of those that were there the first day that Foster the City was launched just a few minutes ago, and I was telling them how actually I was getting nostalgic, and I went back and I listened to the first sermon ever where we cast vision to a church, and we said, hey, what if as a community we start moving towards kids and families together? I went a few weeks ago and I listened to that message. It wasn't me. It was the woman that I co-founded Foster the City with. Her name was Becky. And I went back and I listened to what she said. Can I read to you a little bit of what she said? This is really moving to me. She read out of 1 John chapter 3, verse 1. This is what she read. Behold the great love the Father has lavished on us, that we might be called children of God, and that is what we are. Behold the great love the Father has lavished on us. And then in tears, my friend Becky went on, and this is what she said, and I quote, she said, the wonder of the gospel is this, that God looked on us in our profound plight of hopelessness, and he sent his beloved Son, and he welcomed us into his family. So she said, so I don't want to be crippled in my fears of what ifs. I'm going to live out my faith because God has adopted me as his beloved daughter, she said. Because he has done so much for me, how could I not share that with these kids? How could I not look after them? How could I not provide for them? So this was our foundation, Foster the City, 11 years ago. Look at the great love that he has lavished on us. I want to do that today. I want to look at the great love of God. This cup overflowing belovedness was the spark over 10 years ago. And I am more convinced than ever that rooting ourselves and abiding in the love of God is not just the starting line, but the only thing that will sustain us to faithfully cross the finish line as followers of Jesus who long to live out compassion for the vulnerable. And honestly, I think we might see this better than anywhere in the life of Jesus. You know, if you read through the Gospels, there are 3 times that the Father actually speaks over the Son in a way that you could actually hear him. Those who are around could actually hear the voice of the Father. 3 times in Jesus' ministry we're told about in the Gospels. The first time is Jesus is being baptized in the Jordan. He hasn't actually launched his public ministry. He's being baptized by John. He comes up out of the water in the Jordan, and the Father speaks over the Son and says, if you remember, this is my beloved Son with whom I am well pleased. This is the Son whom I love, with whom I am well pleased. Then he, out of that belovedness, he launches his public ministry. And then you fast forward a little bit. He's on the mountain. He's transfigured in glory. and he's with Peter, James, and John, and as he's in his glory, the Father speaks over him again. Guess what he says? This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. And then there's a third time. Fast forward, it's just before the cross. And Jesus is actually praying to the Father. So he's kind of preparing his heart and mind for what's to come. And he says, Father, would you glorify your name through me? And then the Father responds. And I'm going to kind of paraphrase here, but this is basically what the Father says. He says, I have glorified my name through you. And I'm going to continue. In other words, like, you've already made me so proud. You've already pleased me, and I know you're going to see it through. I know you're going to keep going. 3 times, the Father essentially says the same thing. I love you, and I'm so proud of you. I love you, and I am so pleased with you. I love you, and I'm so delighted in you. 3 times. The Father could have said anything. He could have said, this is my righteous Son. This is my compassionate Son. This is my just Son. And he had 3 tries. He could have said 3 different things. But he didn't. He said the same thing each and every time. Why? It's almost as if Jesus needed this identity of belovedness and the delight of the Father to start, to sustain, and to complete his ministry. I was processing this a bit with one of my spiritual mentors, and he made this comment to me that stuck with me. He said, Philip, he said, the older that I get, the more convinced I am that spiritual maturity is less about how many verses I have memorized. It's less about how much obscure doctrine that I can grapple with. It's less about how hard I toil and strive each day. It's less about how well did I manage my sin better today than I did yesterday? The more convinced I am that spiritual maturity is more about an ever-increasing awareness of God's love for me. That's it, by the way. That's what actually, I could just stop there. That's it. Write that down. That's it. Spiritual maturity is about an ever-increasing awareness of God's love for you. This is changing how I approach every day. So my prayers in the morning have shifted from, oh, God, would you help me just love you better today? Would you help me to love you more today? To, God, would you help me to know your love more today? Would you help me to know your love? Would you help me to walk under your love? Everything emanates from our awareness of God's love for us. We love why? Because he first loved us. We love our neighbor. We love the Lord because he first loved us. So as I come to the scriptures, I'm reading through the Bible now with this as my prayer. God, would you help me to see your love come from your word? And so I've just been reading every day with it, guys, and God's love is leaping off the page. So I started in Genesis. I'm going to give you two examples of this. One at the very beginning of the Bible, one at the very end of the Bible. I started in Genesis. I start reading through the creation account, and I'm just like, God, would you help me to see your love today? And I'm reading about how God is creating the heavens and the earth, and He's creating this space for us to be able to know Him and to enjoy Him and to walk with. And I'm reading about how God would walk through the garden in the cool of the evening with Adam and Eve. And I just start thinking, as I'm kind of processing, I'm thinking about my own earliest days as a father. So, as I mentioned, my wife and I, we have 4 kids. My oldest is just about to graduate high school. But I remember 18 years ago preparing a place for him. My wife is just about to give birth. We're preparing his room. And we're, putting together his crib, and we're painting the walls and buying all the stuffed animals and the books and the toys for him to enjoy. And we bought a rocking chair that my wife we couldn't afford this thing, but we bought this rocking chair that she would sit in for hours, where she was going to nurture him and care for him and provide for him and feed him and sing over him. I remember the rug that we had in the room, that's where my son and I would wrestle around and we'd play together. It was like every inch of that room was dedicated as a place where we could care for him and provide for him, and we could enjoy each other, and ultimately where we could enter into this loving, attached relationship together. And what hit me is that's exactly what God is doing in creation. He's creating a place, a space for us to be able to know him and for him to provide for us and to care for us and ultimately for us to enter into a loving relationship. Gosh, what if that was our mindset as we woke up each day and we stepped out of our house and we took a breath full of fresh air? And we saw it for what it is. It's a gift for you that we might know and enjoy God. Every tree and flower, every mountain and meadow, every creature, every star in the sky was created by our good, good Father as a gift to you and to me, and as a setting where we might be with him and to know his love. Every sunrise is an I love you. Every sunset is with you I am well pleased. I delight in you. But now go to the end of the Bible. We get a glimpse at the end when all things will be made new, every tear is wiped away, all the sad things will become untrue. And if you've read through the book of Revelation, you might remember the setting that we're given, the picture that we're given. John says he calls it the marriage of the Lamb. Okay, it's a wedding celebration is the picture that we're given. It's when the groom, who is Jesus, meets his bride, which is you and me, it's the church, when we're finally united. Now, I've officiated as pastor quite a few weddings over the years. I think we can all agree the absolute best time in a wedding is the moment when the doors fling wide open and the bride steps out and starts walking towards the groom. That's the best. That's why everybody stands. That's why everybody gasps, right, at the beauty of the bride. Inevitably, when that happens, as I'm standing up there, I always, out of my periphery, I'm always taking a glance at the groom. Because, the groom is just like all smiles, beaming ear to ear. Sometimes you see maybe a little bit of the tears coming down, just so overwhelmed with love for his bride-to-be. Husbands, do you remember that moment when you saw that woman walking towards you? Just the overwhelming love that you felt for this woman who was walking towards you. Like, wives, do you remember that moment? Can you picture the look on his face? Do you remember what that was like? How interesting is it that God says, this is the picture of how I feel about you. The best that I can give you is the love that a groom has for his bride. And pause for a quick second. Let me ask you this question, though. Would you be willing just internally, but honestly, answer this question? When God thinks of you, what comes to his mind? Don't say it out loud. When God thinks of you, what comes to his mind? I've asked that question in a lot of different groups and settings, and even at times asked people to write it down, and we've processed through it together. Can I tell you what the most common answer to that question is? Disappointed. When God thinks of me, he's disappointed. That was my answer for a really long time, actually. I would think about all of the junk and all of the mistakes and all the ways that I've messed up in my life. But as I've been grappling with this reality of just God's persistent, stubborn, overwhelming love for me, I'm realizing that even, honestly, and that maybe I hope this is okay to even say, that even the darkest, most messed up parts of my life, even those things can be catalysts to knowing God's love. Even that can actually catapult me into an ever-increasing awareness of God's love for me. I was talking with Michaela just before the service about something that happened in our home a few years ago. My wife and I, our house caught on fire. One of our kids put some hot ash in our garbage can, which is a big no-no. And the trash can went up in flames, and then it was sitting right next to our garage. So the flames actually went through the vents, and then our whole garage caught on fire. So my wife called me. We were out, and I came racing home, and there were 4 fire trucks in front of our home, and we were out of our house for about 10 10 months as they kind of rebuilt. Well, the day after the fire, we were walking through and just seeing the damage, and my son was right next to me, and he just tapped me. He said, "Dad, it was me." He said, "I was the one that put the ash in the trash can." In that moment, I remember getting down and just wrapping my son up in my arms and just holding him and saying, "It's okay, it's gonna be okay." And just like extending love and forgiveness in that moment and I just have to believe that when my son thinks about a loving relationship with his father, that it's not just in the moments when we're driving to practice and all is well, or we're picking him up from school, but it's moments like that when we're standing in the midst of destruction, where he got maybe the most potent taste of my love. When you look at your life and you think, "Oh, but look at the mess I've made." Maybe the most potent expression, the most potent experience you can have with God's love is when you sit with him in the mess and you can say, "It was my fault." And you can just let him wrap you up. And you can say, "Oh, it's going to be okay. I love you. It's going to be okay." When God thinks of you, what comes to his mind? It's got to say something that in Revelation, the picture that he gives us is, the best I can give you is that overwhelming love that a groom has for his bride. That's how I feel about you. Pete Greig, he's the founder of the 24/7 prayer movement. He says the most important discovery you will ever make is the love the Father has for you. Your power in prayer will flow from the certainty that the one who made you likes you. He's not scowling at you. He's on your side. Listen, Presence Church, unless Presence Church's mission and acts of mercy, our intercession, petition, confession, spiritual warfare, begin and end in the knowledge of the Father's love, we will act and pray out of desperation, determination, and duty instead of revelation, expectation, and joy. God loves you. You might be thinking, that's it? That's pretty basic. This is milk, man. Give me some meat. Give me something more. I've been singing Jesus Loves Me since I was a kid. Right? I know John 3:16, for God so loved the world. I get that. Give me something more. But listen, we were never meant to move on from this. This is not a checkbox. You can say, great, check, move on. We were never meant to graduate from the love of God. Jesus once said, "As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Abide in my love." Abide means to remain, to stay there. It's not meant to be something I visited once and now I move on. It's to stay. It's to make it your home. We were meant to spend the rest of our lives learning just how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ. That's what Paul says in Ephesians 3. He says, "I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, may have power together with all the Lord's holy people to grasp how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ, and to know this love that surpasses all knowledge, that you may be filled to the measure of all the fullness of God." So if you want to be filled to the measure of all the fullness of God, if you want to be complete in Christ, what does Paul say we have to do? We have to know his love. We have to begin to grasp how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ. Now, what does that even mean? Pastor Tim Keller, who was a pastor in New York City before he passed, he asked that question. He's like, man, what is... And I haven't stopped thinking about it. What must have been going through Paul's mind as he's talking about the wide love of Jesus, the high, the deep, the long love of Jesus. What does that mean? We don't know for sure. We can't get inside the mind of Paul, but maybe we could guess. We could guess. What do you mean by the wide love of Jesus? Maybe he was thinking about, in the book of Revelation, John describes the throne room of God, and he says, there's a great multitude that no one could count from every nation and tribe and language and color and background. And he said that they're all clothed in like these pristine white robes, like every conceivable mistake forgiven, every stain washed clean because of the blood of the Lamb, worshiping now before the throne of God. Maybe that's what he's talking about, the wide love of Jesus. Listen, the greater that we can grasp the wide love of Jesus, perhaps the less we are likely to show prejudice towards others. Perhaps the less likely we are to condemn or to look down on others or to think that anybody is beyond the reach of Jesus. What did Paul mean when he talked about the deep love of Jesus? Maybe Paul was thinking about like the great descent of Jesus, that the highest of the highs would go to the lowest of the low. Right? What he was talking about in Philippians 2, where he wrote that Jesus, though he was in very nature God, did not consider that something to be held on to, but he made himself nothing, taking the form of a servant, being obedient even to death on a cross. Right? The highest of the highs going to the lowest of the low. We know that Jesus' death on a cross was not just the death of a martyr. He drained the cup of wrath on our behalf. Right? Jesus, the highest of the highs, went to the lowest of the low. He descended to hell so that we could ascend to heaven. Maybe that's what he's talking about, the depth of the love of Jesus. Perhaps the greater that we understand the descent of Jesus, the depth of his love, we too, and I love the way Sister Teresa Noble talked about it, that we too will eagerly descend. The greater life of compassion and service and humility that we'll live in. What about the length of his love? Maybe Paul is thinking about the perseverance, the reach of Jesus. That Jesus is the shepherd who leaves the 99 to pursue the one. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. That he would leave the 99 for the one. That Jesus, though we are prone to wander, he is the hound of heaven who is on our heels. There is no distance that he would not travel, no mountain he would not climb, no wall that he would not kick down. The more that we grasp the length and the perseverance of his love, perhaps the more hope and security that we will know, and perhaps the more patience and perseverance that we will have for those in our care. But then finally, what about the height of his love? This one's too hard to even begin to put into words. God, he doesn't just want you to taste his love. This is no Costco sample. He doesn't want you to experience a fraction of his love. He wants you to experience the heights of his love. And wonder of wonders, think about this. He wants you to experience the height of his love. Just before Jesus goes to the cross, he's praying to the Father, and he's got you on his mind, he's got me on his mind, and he says, I'm going to paraphrase here, but he says, Father, the glory that you and I shared before creation, I want them to share it too. He wants you and me to share with him in the glory that he had with the Father before creation. Think about it. So one of the highlights of my ministry, or my year last year, was doing some ministry in the UK. I got a chance to spend a few days in Oxford doing some ministry. It's one of my favorite places on the planet. I had one day where I had nothing to do. It was a Sunday. I had the entire day off. All I got to do was just enjoy the city. The weather was perfect. I borrowed a bike from the hotel where I was staying, and I just rode all around the city. I got to go visit Tolkien's home. I love Lord of the Rings. So I went and visited Tolkien's home where he wrote Lord of the Rings. I got to go visit C.S. Lewis's home, another great author that I really love. Actually, it was a Sunday, so I went to the church where C.S. Lewis worshiped, and I sat in his pew. And I got to worship. And it was like just this incredible, so surreal. I got to spend the afternoon reading this incredible book in this like gorgeous English countryside. You and I might have different personalities, but for me, that was like a perfect day. As I'm sitting there, can I tell you what I was thinking about all throughout that day? Man, I wish Jessica was here. I really wish my wife was with me. Not because the day was lacking in any way, but when you love somebody, you want to share your joy with them. You just want to share it. God is not lacking anything. But because he loves you, he wants to share his joy with you. Isn't that incredible? No eye has seen, no ear has heard, no mind has imagined the things that God has prepared for those who love him. The degree to which you and I know and savor and experience and grasp God's love for us is the degree to which we will live with joy and hope and peace and perseverance and humility and compassion and without fear or worry or shame or pride. In Ephesians 3, there's this glorious invitation to grasp how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Jesus. And there's also a warning. Again, Paul is on his knees praying that the Ephesian church would just be rooted and grounded in God's love. But if you keep reading through the Bible, you keep reading through the New Testament, God addresses this same church in Ephesus years later in Revelation chapter 2. This is what God says to the church in Ephesus. In Revelation 2, it says, I know your works, your toil, your patient endurance, how you cannot bear with those who are evil, but you've tested those who call themselves apostles and are not, and you found them to be false. I know you're enduring patiently and bearing up for my name's sake, and you've not grown weary. But I have this against you. You have abandoned the love you had at first. Remember, therefore, from where you have fallen, repent and do the works you did at first. If not, I will come to you and remove your lampstand from its place unless you repent. From the best we can tell, they were still doing some really great things. They were striving for righteousness, pursuing purity, toiling for the kingdom, seeking justice, moving towards the vulnerable. But God says they were no longer working out of the overflow of a loving relationship. It was now coming from something else. Duty, religion, we don't know. But it was no longer emanating from a loving relationship. And what's sobering is that God says, if this doesn't change, I'm going to remove the church. And heartbreakingly, that's exactly what happens. Historians will tell you that after just a few years after Revelation 2 was written, the church in Ephesus ceased to exist. For the last 1900 years, there has been little to no church presence where Ephesus once was. Today, it's a small city in modern-day Turkey. It's more than 99% Muslim. The bottom line is, whether it's moving towards kids in foster care, whether it's going out, whatever it might be, works without love will not last. Works without love will not last. Francis Chan is an author, wrote a great book this last year called Beloved. It was the premise of the book was that he was just an ever-increasing awareness in his own life that his love for, that his pursuit of holiness, his life of compassion, his sacrificial devotion had to emanate first from his role as, or his title as, beloved. The word beloved literally means be loved. That's it. Be loved. You don't work for it. You don't earn it. It's not something you strive for. You just be loved. You just receive the love of God. That's what, and from that, everything else springs. You might know Francis Chan. He's a pretty popular author in the kind of the Christian sphere. One of his first books was a book called Crazy Love, real popular for a long time. A book called Crazy Love. Crazy Love was written as kind of a call to the church to get to action, get to work. Get out of your chairs, go out and live for God, live for the vulnerable, go out and to show crazy love to our neighbors and crazy love to God. This is what Francis wrote last year in this book, Beloved. I thought this was interesting. He said, it may sound like I'm contradicting everything that I wrote in Crazy Love. The point of that book was to address the fact that the Christianity of the New Testament looks extremely different from what we're experiencing in the U.S. We attend church services that make us feel comfortable when Jesus commanded us to deny ourselves, pick up our cross, and follow him. My fear, while I wrote the book, was that we resembled the lukewarm church of Laodicea in Revelation chapter 3. In love, I was hoping to stir people's convictions because I didn't want them to be spit out of the mouth of God. But listen to what he says next. I don't regret writing Crazy Love. I just wish I had written this book first. If we don't believe, receive, and meditate on the love of God regularly, the message of crazy love can lead people into frantic works. Before settling on the title Beloved, my original plan was to title the book Crazy Loved. You hear what he's saying? Before we go and extend crazy love, we must rest and swim and grasp the knowledge that we are crazy loved. You are crazy loved. And I really like that phrase, by the way, because we're not just loved, we're loved to like an unreasonable degree. It's crazy how much God loves you and me. that we're loved to a degree that's beyond what makes sense. Lisa Bevere called it a wild and a fierce love. G.K. Chesterton called it the furious love of God. Brennan Manning, another author, also called it the furious longing of God. Fury might sound like kind of a funny way to say that, almost like God's love is angry. It's not like that kind of, it's more like the fury of a storm. Storms don't get angry, but there's an intensity to it. There's a wildness and a power to a storm. In the same way, there's a wildness and a power to God's love. John O'Donohue is an Irish poet. He said, "May you know the urgency with which God longs for you." May you know the urgency. Perhaps my favorite way is to describe it is the way that author and activist Dorothy Day said it. She called it the reckless way of love. Not reckless as in thoughtless, but reckless as in it doesn't make sense, incalculable, throw caution to the wind, extravagant, beyond belief kind of love. Again, a love that forgives not 7 times, but 70 times 7. A love that leaves the 99 for the one. A love that becomes vulnerable in order to be betrayed, abandoned, abused, and killed by the very people that he spoke into being. A love that chooses to reveal himself to the infants and the foolish rather than the wise and the elites. A love that saves and sanctifies and stubbornly pursues people like you and me. It's an overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. And here's my point to all of this. The more that we taste and savor the reckless love of God over us, the more we become a people of love. Again, Brennan Manning says it like this. He says, Christianity happens when men and women experience the reckless, raging confidence that comes from knowing the God of Jesus. When you and I come to know the love of God, what develops in us is a reckless, raging confidence. It's reckless to foster. It's reckless to open up your home voluntarily to dysfunction. That's reckless. It's reckless to open up your home to a child, in your heart to a child who has experienced significant neglect and abuse. That's a reckless thing to do. It's reckless to throw away a life of easy retirement, golf, travel, for more years of diapers and tantrums and homework. That's reckless. It's reckless to choose your vulnerable neighbor over self-preservation. It's reckless, though, to drop your nets and follow Jesus. And it's reckless to ruthlessly dig through somebody's roof to get your friend to the feet of Jesus. Well, we could just keep going. 2 months ago, state leaders from around the country gathered in Washington, D.C. These were high-level leaders in the child welfare space. They got together, and they get together a couple times a year, and they talk about new practices kind of in the foster care space, new research, new innovation, best practices. And they got together, and they actually reached out to Foster the City, and they said, can you guys come out? We'd like to learn a little bit more about what's happening in this movement. How are you guys seeing hundreds and hundreds of foster families stepping forward? And how are you seeing such high-caliber, self-giving, long-suffering families? And how are you seeing churches rally around these families in such dynamic ways? And so, of course, we went out and we spent some time, and we got a chance to share about our model and the app that we developed and our pipeline and the resources. But we said, can we really be really honest? If I could be just really frank with you, we're not seeing these families step forward because they're motivated by an app or because they're motivated by some pipeline or resources. We're seeing families show up and extravagantly love because we believe at the core of our being that we have been extravagantly loved. Can I give you just a little example of that? I'm going to invite you to watch this video with me.
When I found out I was pregnant with Loyal, I was in Florida. My first thought was probably not the best one, but it was like, why now? Out of any time in my life that I could have gotten pregnant, like this time where I have nothing to give this baby. Using was my life. I used my whole pregnancy up to the day before I had Loyal. I was thinking Loyal's dad, who I had talked to again, said he was gonna come be the family and whatnot. Well, he got out of jail and never came. When that happened, it kind of like threw me. Like I was already kind of losing it. starting to see things a little bit. But then after that happened, I really started seeing things. And I thought there was stuff in my legs and my skin. And then I started seeing things in Loyal's skin. And that's when I ended up calling for the ambulance. I guess I was really close to where like the social service area is. And I could hear them talking. They're about to take Loyal. And then when they came in, the police officer made me give him to him. So I gave him up.
We got a call for our first placement. She said, "Hi, Alicia. I'm a social worker, and are you able to take in an 8-month-old boy?" And I remember saying, like, yes, of course we can. And so she said, all I can tell you is he's been cleared from the hospital, and he's in good health. His name is Loyal. We just had the most like surreal night of someone's little boy is in our home right now and is with us, and we don't know anything about him. All of a sudden, here we are, and we're gonna jump in and take care of him. And I remember he was laying on our rug his first night doing like tummy time, and I remember me just thinking like, what did we do? And what are we doing?
Yeah, that's a good job.
I was told, like, okay, it's time to do visits with his mom. On like the third or fourth visit, I had dropped Loyal off and I had left. It was for an hour, and then I came back and she comes out and she's walking down the hallway to me. I just remember telling her, like, hey, I want you to know I am not trying to steal him from you, and that I'm here to help him and help you.
I still had this, worry in my brain because I don't have him all the time. And like, I just worried about this bond that they were creating. And like, that was really hard for me. While I was in recovery, I met this girl named Nikki. She had a really close relationship with her foster family. And at first I thought that was so weird. I was like, I didn't know how she could do it. One day she broke it down. She's like, they can be your best advocate. Like, I just didn't believe it until I started seeing it with her. One day the kids were sick, and immediately what did the foster parents do is they brought over some medicine for her and the baby. It wasn't just about the baby, it was about getting them both well. And like, it made me look at it differently, like, yes, he's part of their family, but he's also my family too, and like, it just kind of had me look at things different.
All of a sudden I could tell, like, oh, she's looking at me differently, and she's talking with me more. She's sharing more, and she's sharing about her personal life, and she's opening up more. It just like filled me with hope of like what this could be. Like, this could be something so beautiful, because now she's opening herself up to me. Now how can we work together to see Loyal like flourish and feel so loved as he transitions from being with us to going home with Mom. 2 nights before Loyal was going back to his mom, we invited this community of people to come to the house to just pray over Loyal. And we said, bring your kids, because they've been a part of the process and they love Loyal. And we invited this group of people who over the last 1.5 years were with us through the ups and downs. And all of our kids like prayed over him and for his future and for his mom. And then the adults sat around a table and we just prayed scripture over him, and we prayed that we would continue to be a part of his life, and we prayed for Jerry Lee by name, and that their bond would grow and that there would be healing in there. Even I was crying, and I couldn't pray. And I just remember having people who prayed for me, because I said, I can't pray tonight. And so I had just friends around who prayed for me on behalf of Loyal. And so yeah, it's something I look back on and I couldn't do it without him. So
February 28th, I got him back. That was great.
And I said, I just want you to know I will not reach out to you. If you want to continue this, then you can contact me, but we would love to still be a part of your life and Loyal's life.
So 3 weeks after I got full custody of Loyal that day was saying he missed them and he wanted to see them, which I'm not gonna lie, that was a little hard for me because I was all in my lovey mode. But I reached out and I texted Alicia and I said, can we FaceTime?
Jerry Lee was like, hey, so I wanted to ask if you guys would consider being Loyal's godparents. At that point, I didn't know what it even looked like, but I was like, doesn't matter. Any opportunity to continue to be a part of both of their lives was something that we really wanted.
You know, they've raised him so good, the times they had with him, and he was so happy, and like, he could have came back any kind of ways, you know, and he didn't come back broken. He came back perfect. Why wouldn't I want to keep that side of him still in his life?
So as God was shifting our hearts from, oh, we're going to adopt, to like, now let me show you how to love this other family and welcome them into yours. It was like God continually showing me the gospel in my own life, how much I needed it. It was this act of him teaching me, how do you take stranger and love them into family? But first I had to let God root out all of that in me for me to then see, oh, this is what you have for us. It's not for us just to add a little person to our family, but to grow our family through their extended family.
My favorite line in that whole video is, right at the end there, Alicia says, how do you take a stranger and love them into family? That's what God did for us. He demonstrates his own love for us in this, that while we were estranged from him, while we were alienated from him, while we were sinners, he died for us. And in that, when we experience that love, we are then compelled to go and do the same for those around us, to take strangers and love them into family, which, by the way, that's exactly what happened. Jerry Lee didn't just come into their relationship there. She was actually loved into the family of God. She's a part of a local church here in the Bay Area and is following Jesus. Claudia Mayer Burney wrote this, and I close with this. Jesus said that you are to love one another as I have loved you, a love that will possibly lead to the bloody, anguished gift of yourself. A love that forgives 70 times 7, that keeps no record of wrongs. Go now, beloved brothers and sisters, aflame with what you know to do. Love. Invite all to God's feast of furious love. Do as the Master commands. Go out at once into the streets and lanes of the city. Bring in here the poor and crippled and blind and lame. Bring them starving. Bring them bleeding and broken. Go in love. Go with love. Go because of love. How might the Lord be calling you to do just that? 2 invitations. Would you prayerfully consider how God might be inviting you to extend reckless, extravagant love to your neighbor? Maybe that could be right here at Presence, getting involved with one of the ministry teams, getting involved with the kids ministry, start serving through Presence. Maybe it's beginning to give here recklessly to the kingdom work that's happening right here at this church. Maybe God is calling you to get involved with Foster the City. If I haven't made it clear, there's a significant need for more foster families in Santa Clara County. Today, there are more children entering into foster care than there are families ready to help them. That breaks the heart of God, and I know it breaks your heart as well. We're raising up foster families and support friends to try to change that. And God's moving. The church is on the move. Today, after about a decade of ministry here in Santa Clara County, almost 60% of all active families licensed through Santa Clara County are coming from Foster the City churches. God is moving in some big ways. Maybe he's calling you to be a part of that. Maybe you can't foster, but maybe you could support a foster family to help a family foster longer and stronger. Support friends provide practical, emotional, spiritual support to families to help them keep going. Maybe that's a role you could take. If you're interested in getting involved in any way, I want to ask you to fill out this card. We have a table out in the courtyard. You can fill out this card, and we're going to send you an email about an interest meeting that's coming up. It's virtual. You don't even have to get dressed back up and come back to church. You can take it in your living room. It's a webinar, and it's about an hour long, and we'll walk through how you can become a foster parent or support friend. That really is the ask today. Would you be willing to fill this card out and get an email about an hour-long meeting? My second invitation to you is this, and honestly, this is what I hope the most, even more than a next step card. Would you be ready and willing to receive the wide, long, deep, high love of Jesus? Because God loves you. He's not disappointed in you. He's not shaking his head at you. He's not scowling at you. He loves you. He delights in you. And he wants you to know that. He wants you to enjoy that, to grasp that, to have an ever-increasing awareness of his love for you this week. Let's respond and let's sing a little bit together as we remember God's love.